Kanpai!
Kanpai. Skare.
Skare-sama.
So for those of you who don't know, this is Happy Hour Japan. I'm Kevin.
I'm Aaron.
And let's get started.
Yeah, so today's episode is actually inspired by a message I got from Stephanie, who is a reader of our blog and also a friend of ours over at japansoch.com. And she had some ideas for us, one of which was talking about manners, specifically
things around the house.
Things around the house, but we thought, well, let's expand the scope and do all sorts of manners.
The examples that Stephanie brought up, I thought were really good, and she talked about taking your shoes off before you enter the house. Mm-hmm. That's a big one.
My wife will murder anybody who comes in the house without shoes on. Well, she won't really, but she'll tell me after the fact, or she'll give me that evil eye.
I think she'll murder you.
In Hawaii, they call it the stink eye. If I do it, she'll murder me, for sure. Like I did the other day. I kind of snuck into the back room to try and grab something before I left the house, and she found out about it. They have a whole little area when you walk in the door there. What's that called, Kevin?
Genkan.
Genkan, right? They have a whole genkan, and it's a level, usually a level lower from the rest of the house. So if you're in Japan, it's easy to remember, but if you're not in Japan, watch out, because you might screw up like I do sometimes.
Yeah, and the genkan is actually a really interesting place, because in a traditional house, like an actual big house, big is relatively speaking in Japan, but you'll have a pretty big step, a sizable step between the genkan and the actual house level. Mm-hmm. In an apartment, like the apartment I was staying in, the genkan, the difference in height between my floor level and the genkan was about that much. But they still have
just big enough to stub the shit out of
exactly. That's right.
Damn, that sucks.
And but it's funny because that genkan area is considered fair game for people coming into your house to sell you things or to get your money for your newspaper subscription or whatnot.
They'll come into your house without
they'll knock on the door and open the door
and
they'll stand in your genkan because that's fair game. So if be aware of that.
Yeah. More to do with shoes. I think I had another video on YouTube about this, but there are slippers for once you get in the house. So you take your shoes off. You put your slippers on, unless you're going into a tatami room, in which case you take your slippers off. But then if you walk over to the bathroom, you put a different pair of bathroom-only slippers on, right? It's kind of bizarre and it takes a little getting used to, but yeah.
But they like to keep those separate. You don't want to take the bathroom slippers outside of the bathroom.
Oh yeah, that would be horrendous.
Japanese people use these a lot. No, not crayons. Ohashi, chopsticks.
Yeah.
These are actually novelty ones that I got in Japan.
Pencil ohashi.
There's a lot of manners that come with ohashi. Like, for example, you should never do this.
Don't do this. I know, I just caught that. I used to do that when I was first in Japan. Like, oh, this food is really good, and she's like, whoa, get that away from me.
Yeah.
What the hell are you doing?
You're never supposed to point with your ohashi.
Yeah. Right, don't do it. Yeah.
Another thing is you should never pass things. Like, for example, if I had, if I could pick up this beer bottle or beer cap. If you have something in your ohashi, you never want to.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
You know why that is? It's because in funerals they pass the unburnt bones of the cremated remains of somebody using ohashi like that.
And they put it into like the urn or something like that. It's like a ritual, so it reminds people of death. It's not a good thing.
Not a good thing.
Use them for eating, and when you're not using them, put them down on your little hashi holder.
I heard something about seating priority at work parties and restaurants and stuff like that when you go with a group of people.
Right.
What's the deal with that?
Usually it's like when you go for a work party or something. There's always a hierarchy, right? You got your boss, then your man, whatever. I don't know what the hierarchy is.
Then you've got me.
Generally speaking, the highest ranking person will sit furthest away from the door, and the lowest ranking person, usually myself, will sit closest to the door. So that's a kind of an easy way to think about it if you have no idea. But typically, if you're new or you just don't know, you should just wait standing until someone directs you.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, please sit down, and then it's okay.
Yeah, it's really confusing when you get in that situation. It's easy to just kind of go for a seat like you would in America, just find the one that works for you and sit there. But don't do that. Just, stand there, and if you don't speak Japanese, just stand there and wait for other people to move around first, and they'll direct you to wherever they want you to sit.
Slurping is really rude in the States, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, but it's weird. I can't eat noodles without slurping anymore.
Yeah, no, me either. I can't eat.
I'm just...
It's not possible.
As rude as it is, I after going to Japan so many times and eating, ramen, for example.
Yeah, well, the cool thing
it just tastes better.
And the other thing about slurping is it cools your food down, so you don't need to blow on the noodles. You just, and a lot of air comes in over the noodles as you slurp it in, cools it down. It's better for everybody.
And it's not rude in Japan.
No, it's not.
So you'll hear it a lot. If it bothers you, you should probably get used to it and try it out.
Yep, you go into some restaurants, especially like faster restaurants. At the lunch break, you'll have a bunch of people sitting around. Like, it's just like, ah! But it's easy to get used to at some point, especially if you're joining in.
That's right. The best way to drown out the other people's disgusting slurping sound is to make slurping sounds that are louder than theirs.
Exactly.
So the last one I wanted to bring up before, there's obviously too many to, get in one episode, but the one I thought was really interesting was tipping.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no tipping in Japan.
Yeah, I like that.
I think it's awesome.
I really like it.
You go to Japan and you finish your meal and you never have to think about 15%, 20%.
Yeah,
it's just whatever the bill is, you pay the bill.
Yeah.
No matter how good the service is, which is awesome. So there was one time where I tipped a Japanese person and they actually accepted it.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Jeez, that's
which is really weird.
Bizarre. Yeah.
And it was actually a taxi cab driver. And the story is. So I went to a train station to see a friend of mine, mm-hmm. and I hailed a cab, and I had all my luggage because I just came from the airport.
Yeah.
And the guy, you wait, and there's a queue of taxi cabs, and the guy I ended up getting was this old guy who looked just like he was beaten up, just really old. So this guy, he gets out of his car, and he's trying to help me with my luggage, getting it into his trunk. And I'm like, oh, dude, I'll get it. Don't strain your back.
Yeah, I had an old guy one time too, and I thought he was gonna pop his hip out or something.
So he's got the trunk door open. I'm loading my own luggage in because I feel bad, right? And then he's going to shut the trunk. So he lifts up his hands and it looks like he's just taking life out of him. Just like, and he can't shut the freaking trunk.
Oh no!
And he's trying really hard. Right? I'm thinking, man, it's just not latching. So I was like, let me do it, right? So I'm kind of pushing him aside. And and he's been trying really hard. So I'm like, I'm going to just give it one really hard go. Yeah. So I kind of get up there, jump up a little bit and go, boom! And it makes this really different sounding thud.
Oh, shit.
And I look over and his hands are on the, right in the gap where the front door is. And I was like, oh my God. And he just looks at me with his really straight face and just glares at me, and then he's kind of like, I'm so sorry. And so he doesn't say anything. He goes into the car and he's driving it, and every time he's at a stop, he's shaking his hands. It's you can tell he's in a lot of pain.
Rub it in already.
So when we got to the destination, I gave him an extra 1,000 yen. And it kind of seems like a slap in the face, but he didn't say anything. He took it.
Yeah, wow.
So I told him it was for the trouble. I was like,
oh my God. I'm surprised. Well, I'm not that surprised that he didn't yell, just because that's, what a lot of people do. But if that was me, I think, I'd be in shock for a second, then I'd,
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's it for today.
Thanks for joining us again.
We'll see you guys later, and until next time, kanpai.
Ciao, Matani! Bye-bye. Kanpai.